Welcome to HR Happy Hour. You are here for the work break earlier than normal with Trish and Steve. Hey, Steve Bose.
Hey, Trish McFarland. How are you today?
I'm good. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah. So for many years, Trish, I've dabbled. I've moonlighted as a hairstylist. I have one client who is I. From time to time, I do break out the tools of the trade, if you will. I have one tool, actually, the tool of the trade, which is a set of clippers. And yeah, you just go.
I feel like you're looking just very dapper today. You've got your collared shirt on, and here
Can I just tell you my day here? Can I get a little bit of like tiny violin? So
okay, I'm ready.
So far, it's about 1:25 where I live. So I recorded a podcast today with my friends at Paycom, which is coming out soon, which was great, with Shelly Ballou from Paycom, who's just super smart in the learning and development space. So that's coming out soon. So did that.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, rolled into the podcast that you and I just recorded with Kyle Ewing from Google, who runs Google's internship program. So basically, I was gushing a little bit because it's like the most famous internship program in the world.
I know.
We have the person who runs it on the show. That'll come out in a couple of weeks. It was a great conversation.
Well, and Kyle is so sweet and so personable. So not only did she give like a ton of actionable items, which of course I love and I know you love, but she's going to come on like every quarter and talk with us about all things HR, recruiting at Google. So that's going to be exciting.
That's awesome. And so, yeah, one of the most famous companies in the world, best run companies in the world, et cetera. And then, so we rolled right into this and Trish's like, let's just do this right now and get it out of the way. I'm like, okay, I've only been like talking on air or on record for the last 2 hours, but all right, we'll do this right now. Then we have some works to do later today, and I still have to record my presentation for the HR Tech Fest event in Singapore. It's due today, and I haven't done it yet, so I have a lot going on today. A lot of FaceTime, me staring at the camera here.
I'm not feeling sorry for you at all. I haven't even had breakfast yet today, so that's why I'm taking a work break earlier, because you know me, I'm going to get hangry. So
you will, and no one wants that. I know that. I've seen hangry before.
Here's the thing. Karen Hunter came over today to work here with me. So she's actually in the other room working. And she even offered to stop and bring me breakfast this morning. I'm like, oh no, girl, I got this. I'm going to cook for myself today, something super healthy. No, I didn't. I've been working since I think I got up at 4:30 this morning. So,
wow. Okay.
So for me, this is a true work break time.
All right. Well, let's take a break and not talk about work anymore. Let's talk about something else.
Well, I want to talk about one teeny quick work break thing.
Okay.
Before the break part of it is that so that right now it's analyst season. We're starting to get a lot of analyst briefings and meetings. I know you and Karen have sat through probably 40 or 50 briefings already. We are putting together training for any of the vendors in the space who would like help on how to do that really well. So DM me if you are interested, because I think there's a lot of best practices that are kind of being overlooked, and we are here to help. So
awesome. Yeah, I did see that. That is great.
Yeah. Anyway, we just got a question here. Let's do that. Let's answer a question before we even jump into what we're going to talk about. What are some tactics you all are using to shed light onto returning employees during the pandemic? Oh, okay. That's a good question. And actually, you know what? I say we can even answer this in more depth, on a future work break, maybe tomorrow. But off the top of my head, I think that the one thing that people are still feeling is a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, because I don't know about where you are, but I'm now knowing more and more people who actually have contracted COVID. Like before, it was I didn't know anyone personally. So one of the things I feel like, even though we're about 6 months into kind of living and working in a pandemic, as people do go back to work, part of you is ready to go back. It's sort of like going back to school. You're ready to go back, but the level of anxiety is so high. So I think for me, the biggest thing I would focus on is really trying to look at your wellness programs. And if you don't have a wellness program, if I were in HR, that's where I would be spending a lot of my time prior to really bringing people back in mass. Steve, I don't know if there's anything else you'd be focused on different than that or in addition to that?
Yeah, I probably would think about looking into some of the apps or services from your existing providers that are offering, office kind of check-in tools, contact tracing tools, things like that. There've been a lot of purpose-built tools and solutions built specifically about bringing back people to work safely.
Yeah, even though it might be really safe, you might, some businesses are doing so much around just, proving they're disinfecting things and socially distancing and all that. I don't know about anybody else. I still feel anxious. Like I went to a dance recital the other night, and it was indoors, and it was absolutely safe. Like they took every precaution, and everyone was spaced out, and I wore my mask the whole time, and I didn't sit near anyone else, all those things. I was quite anxious, and I'm not an anxious person. So I think just keep that in mind too. Like people who might normally get kind of worked up about things, when you actually get in that situation, because I've been pretty much outside or at my house these last few months. Yeah, just think of that. Our normal behavior may not be normal anymore. Like, right? We may be completely anxious, whatever, but anyway, well, thank you for the question. Yeah, always just ask us anything you've got going on, and definitely message us if you feel like that's something that we can talk about further, or even on a podcast, we can maybe get some guests on to specifically address that type of question. So thank you so much for the comment. So Steve, yesterday I hinted a little bit to you at this concept of time. I know you're a physics liking guy as well, and I know you were going to do some reading on it, and normally we don't prep, but I wanted to give you a heads up just because I want to give some credit to the video and article I read in case anyone's interested, and I will tweet it out after this, but it was at a site called bigthink.com, and it's called Time. Do the past, present, and future exist all at once? And it's got a video and an article and written with different points of view in mind. So Steve, I don't know if you had a chance to even view that or other material.
I watched the video, yeah, and I've read some stuff about this as well. And
yeah. So what are your thoughts on time? Because I sort of feel like we get too wrapped up in it. Again, I'm not talking about being just disrespectful. If you have a meeting with someone, obviously, of course, you want to try and do that. But this whole idea of that I have to do certain things at a certain time or a certain time of day, I feel like working virtually for more people, it's giving more flexibility to that construct of time. I'm curious though what you think, because I know you spend a lot of time thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it a little more in the physics, kind of astrophysics, or kind of time frame or point of view, right? And so they basically Einstein proved, right, with his two theories. There's the theory of general relativity, which is the first one, right, which is basically talking about the observed gravitational effect between masses results from their warping of this thing called space-time. And space-time is basically going from the 3D world into 4D by adding the dimensions of time.
Right.
And then he further developed that with the theory of special relativity regarding the relationship between space and time. And essentially this, right, the faster you go, right, this time slows down until you get all the way up to the speed of light where time doesn't move at all, right? And it's been observed, it can be proven, right? It happens every day, just getting GPS satellites to work correctly. They have to account for the fact that these satellites are moving so quickly that time passes differently for the satellite than it does for us here standing on Earth, right? And so
I think as an adult, like if I were in a science class, of course that would be something I'd be like, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. As an adult, that's not something I tend to think about very often, but you're right. Like that's just a very practical example of how, yeah, something moving far in the atmosphere at a different rate of speed than what we are here on Earth. And of course the Earth moving in general, all of those things are in play, and time does move differently depending on where you are in space, right? Yeah,
and then without going too much more into it, Einstein himself believed that there was kind of no such thing really as time the way we consider it, like yesterday, today, tomorrow, right? Which is what we observe and what we think and what we've kind of been trained to think. Einstein felt like time was like almost like a canvas. And depending on how you were looking at it, what vantage point you had on the universe, or just say the Earth to make it simpler, you could see everything all at once, right? And so there's the story in that video where Einstein writes a letter. A friend of his died, and he writes a letter to the widow to say, hey, he was such a great guy, I love him, but don't worry, he's not dead. He's just over the next hill, right? And so that he's still there, right? And so why I'm so fascinated by this too, I've thought about this a lot, maybe too much, But I'm a big fan of Watchmen, the graphic novel, which maybe you've heard of, right? It's basically thought to be among the best, if not the best, example of comic book storytelling and art ever done. It was done in the late 80s. And in Watchmen, and they made a movie out of it too, some folks might have seen, there's a character, a hero, quote unquote, called Dr. Manhattan. And Dr. Manhattan just can see time, like time doesn't work the same for him as it works for everybody else. Mm-hmm. Right? He sees it all at once. And in Watchmen, they describe it like a multifaceted jewel, like a diamond. And times like that. And it's just the same thing with the point of view. It just depends on which facet you're looking at. And if you turn it, there's yesterday, or there's tomorrow, or there's 1,000 years from now. So it's a super interesting way to think about it. And even the physicists in that video talk about, hey, yeah, I have to at least believe that that's possible, that all time exists simultaneously. It's just we're not able to see it. I think that's super fascinating.
I had not heard that example, so thank you for that. It makes sense to me. I mean, again, I think it's just one of those things, like, we just don't know more than what we do know, right? Yeah. And so we're just operating. But yeah, I guess that's back to the point of, I think in sharing it with everyone today, it's more around this idea of, we put so many false time constructs around what it is we do and what we expect of others. And I think that even working in a remote world now, predominantly, the way that we view time and how we use our time has to change. It's just got to change. It is changing. Thank goodness. Maybe that's one of the silver linings from being in a pandemic, is that I do feel like time is being used differently and people are working differently at different times. And yeah, so I don't know. There's no idea
for a Thursday.
I love, right? It's just whatever we think. So, well, good. Well, thanks for diving into kind of a very abstract.
I dig it.
Topic and idea with me. I love
physics is fun, and that's fun spelled with a PH. PHUN.
I love physics. I'm not even kidding. Like,
I know.
So I'm not going to give too much away, but you always ask me these fun questions at the beginning of an HR happy hour episode, and you were asking me today whether I would go forward or backward in time, which I'm not going to give my answer.
Don't give it away. Save it for the pod.
Save it for the podcast. But I will say, I mean, I love thinking about that, right? These are things that, I don't know. I like that there's no right answer, right? It's just, it challenges your brain. And I think just that alone.
There's not that there's just no right answer. There might not be an answer. How about that?
Oh.
Chew on that one as we go out into the sunset.
All right, now we're getting really philosophical. No, if I could go back in time, though, I will tell you one thing I would have done is I would have taken more physics. I don't know. I was so afraid of it at the time. I took some and I did well. I aced it. But in hindsight, I wish I would have done it sooner in life. And I guess it's never too late, right? Does anyone out there have any, like, I don't know, physics courses online that I could like?
Oh, I'm sure you can find some on Coursera or other sites. Yeah.
MIT or somewhere?
I bet that's very available.
Point it out to me, people. Who wants to take an online physics class with me? I don't know. Or we need a physics guest. We need a guest. Anyway, look, we're going way long today. This is why I take breaks at the end of the day, because otherwise I just talk and talk. So
good stuff.
All right, I'm going to go eat breakfast, lunch, whatever this is going to be called, brunch. Anyway, so thanks everyone for watching and listening. As always, we love all your comments. We love all your questions. Thank you for the questions today. And this has been great. And we will pick this up tomorrow.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.